broadly speaking for the world, as well as, of course, applicable to India, you've said emphasizing a balance between monetary and fiscal policy, that national level policies should provide timely demand support. Now, we're on the annual of the budget in India, which, as you know, is a big thing, and we're hoping that that will provide some sort of fiscal expansionary support to the economy. What do you think is the best course of action the government could take?
Well, let me just be clear, for instance, on our fiscal advice, it's important for countries to have the fiscal space if you're not a country with very large levels of debt or already very large fiscal deficits. Now, in the case of India, it is important that the fiscal targets are met, at least from a medium-term perspective. And it's also important that if spending is done, it's done on public investment as opposed to consumption spending. Now, there's also other stimulus in the system in India, which is the monetary policy rate cuts that happened in 2019 and the corporate tax cut that happened in the fiscal side. So there is a stimulus. I would say that in terms of the major issue to deal with is the weakness in credit growth. How do you get credit growth back up? But at the same time, making sure that there is not going to be a second round of non-performing assets in the future. I think that's the balance that the government has to hit.
When you speak of investment in infrastructure, let's say, as opposed to consumption, or you speak of longer term measures, or you speak of the fiscal space, the point is we're at 5%, and we desperately need something to do something to get growth back up. Are you suggesting that if the government were to do something on the consumption side, that would not be viewed well by the world?
Again, I don't want to make a blanket statement on this particular issue, but what is important is to address the underlying source of the problems. The underlying source of the problem is stress in the financial system. And some of that has to do with non-performing assets that have been around for a while. So there has to be faster resolution, and I talked about how you might need greater infrastructure there in terms of being able to get timely resolution outcomes. So those kinds of issues have to be dealt with. On the fiscal side, it is also important to make sure that you have sufficient revenue mobilization, including from the goods and services tax. So those aspects have to be dealt with. It's not always the case that if you were to increase spending, you're going to make the deficit worse, because you can shift spending from one area to another, and that can have an impact on growth. So there are many ways to doing this, but I just want to flag that it's important for there to be a medium-term fiscal consolidation target for India.